see you there.
You're underestimating me. What were you trying not to show me?
The rest of this.
Oh, I can handle that.
I bet.
I can handle that.
I would have wanted to be awake and watch him do it, but they won't let me.
No, I didn't want to be awake. They put me
Alright,
in
that might be pushing it.
They put me in that chair and they were strapping me down here just the headrest. And then next thing I know, you're all done.
Yeah.
Waking up.
Yeah. What? Like
So,
anything
you
else?
can-
When are you gonna start?
Yeah.
You get that
Welcome, everybody, to this regular City Council meeting, the Grand Haven City Council for Monday, February 16th, 2026. Maria, would you call the roll?
Fritz,
Here.
Callio,
Here.
Lyon,
Here.
Dora,
Here.
Manetza.
Here. Our invocation this evening is by Troy Hauser-Bryden of the First Presbyterian Church. Please rise and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Gracious God, we come before you tonight with grateful hearts for the gift of community and the blessing of calling Grand Haven our home. Thank you for the beauty of our shoreline, the strength of our neighborhood, and the people who serve the city with dedication and care. We lift up the members of the City Council and all who lead and serve here. Grant them wisdom beyond their own, clarity in moments of complexity, and courage to act with integrity. Help them to listen well, speak thoughtfully, and seek not personal gain but the common good. When decisions are difficult, guide them with discernment. When opinions differ, anchor them in respect and unity. Bless the residents of this community, families, business owners, public servants, and volunteers. May we be a people marked by compassion, patience, and shared commitment to the flourishing of all. Lord, let tonight's discussions be productive, fair, and rooted in what will strengthen this city for generations to come. May our work here reflect your justice, stewardship, and hope. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So that brings us to reappointments to boards and commissions. We have one. Would you like to read that?
Item A, reappoint Kevin Gankars to the Construction Board of Appeals with a term ending December 31st, 2026.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Fritz, second by Sarah. Sarah. Almost said Lyons. Questions on this appointment? Would you please call the roll?
Fritz,
Yes.
Callio,
Yes.
Lyon,
Yes.
Dora,
Yes.
Manetza.
Yes. And we have two new appointments.
Item A, appoint Brian Seitzma to the Construction Board of Appeals with a term ending December 31st, 2026. And item B, appoint Donald Lumen to the Musical Fountain Committee with a term ending June 30, 2028.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Dora, second by Lyon. Questions on either of these?
No questions, just thank you to both of them for taking over my spot and my husband's
Yeah.
spot, so,
Yeah, you created two openings here.
yeah.
All right, if there are no questions, please call the roll.
Dora,
Yes.
Lyon,
Yes.
Fritz,
Yes.
Callio,
Yes.
Manetza.
Yes. So that brings us to our approval of the consent and regular agendas. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Fritz, second by Callio. At this point, is there any adjustments or changes to the agenda that we should entertain? Anything to take off consent?
Have none. I have none.
Well, then would you please call the roll?
Fritz,
Yes.
Callio,
Yes.
Lyon,
Yes.
Dora,
Yes.
Manetza.
Yes. All right, there was no work session, so it brings us to our first call to the audience. I would also mention that we have 3 public hearings this evening. So if you're speaking to one of those public hearing items, you can save your comments for then. Otherwise, now would be the time to speak. Also, I would like to remind everyone that during regular agenda items, the floor is not open. So if you want to speak to those items, you can speak at this time. Sometimes council will have specific questions for specific individuals, but otherwise, if you want to make comments, now would be the time.
Rich Clapp, 217 Grand Avenue here in Grand Haven. And Mr. Mayor, I know I'm with the airport board. I've been on there for close to 10 years. I'm a certificated flying instructor. I have many ratings and almost 30 years of experience in aviation. I read the agenda tonight and I saw that you had approval from some of the different boards. And we were the only board at the airport that basically denied, said it wasn't a good idea to utilize the overrun area on runway 27 for solar panels and electrification. The reason for that is, as a flying instructor, the very first thing, and I tried to bring a student in today to attest to this, but one of the very first things we teach them is on takeoff, if you lose an engine below 1,000 feet, always land straight ahead. And there's a statistical reason for that, because many times if you lose an engine on takeoff, most of those don't end up well. If you're below 1,000 feet and you're trying to turn back for the runway, you just can't do it. I've done it, but there were other circumstances that allowed me to do that. The FAA designs airports with those overruns for the possibility of an engine failure on takeoff. We've taken a lot of money from the federal government through grants. I would also hate to have to see us.
I'd like to speak on the same topic. The proposed project, proposed community solar project at the airport. I attended the board meeting, the last board meeting, and one of the pilots had an excellent suggestion. He said, you know, at Oshkosh, we have a commission, and I'd just like to read the support letter. On behalf of the City of Grand Haven Sustainability and Energy Commission, we respectfully submit this letter in support of the Grand Haven Board of Light and Power proposed small community solar installation located west of the Grand Haven Memorial Air Park. The Sustainability and Energy Commission serves in an advisory capacity to the city manager on matters related to energy efficiency, renewable energy, environmental stewardship, and long-term community resilience. In that role, the SEC has reviewed the general concept of a small-sized utility-led community solar project at the airport and believes it is consistent with the city's adopted sustainability objectives and public interest goals. There's a need for future additional power in the area, and although modest in scale, a small installation at the airport would meaningfully expand equitable access to clean energy while keeping ownership, operational control, and benefits within the local utility and community. A community solar program administered by the BLP would provide an important opportunity for residents and businesses who are unable to install rooftop solar due to rental status, shading, roof limitations, or financial constraints to participate directly in locally generated renewable power. Furthermore, the Grand Haven City Council unanimously supported the community energy plan at the 4/14/2025 City Council meeting. Whereas the document specifically calls for community solar as its second highest priority. The SEC also emphasizes the importance of continued coordination among the City Council, Airport Board, BLP, and relevant regulatory agencies, as well as transparency with the public as the project is further evaluated. We support a deliberate review process that addresses safety, land use compatibility, and community input prior to any final approvals. For these reasons, the Sustainability and Energy Commission encourages the Mayor and City Council to continue supporting the evaluation and potential development of BLP's proposed small community solar project on the west side of the airport, consistent with city policies and applicable regulations. Thank you for your continued leadership and commitment to responsible, locally driven energy solutions. The SEC stands ready to provide additional input or assistance as required. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Who else would like to address council?
Rex Slingerland, 15063 Lake Avenue, Grand Haven. I've been a pilot for 30-some years and flying out of the Grand Haven Airport exclusively for that amount of time. At one time, I had 2 hangars. Now I have 1 hangar and 1 airplane. That's called retirement. And anyway, each time I've ever come to talk to this body has been over either saving the airport or protecting the airport. And I just don't see a clear space as for solar panels as a good idea. If I would have to crash, I think a clear space without trees would be great. We have trees way down at the end, but just a thought. The other thing that comes to mind is the airport used to be 300-plus acres, which would have been plenty of room for something like this. Now that we're 150-some acres, in the clear space just doesn't make sense. The last thing is, if you brought this to the FAA first, instead of doing this to me backwards, and found out what they think, because we could do all this work and they could just say, no way. And my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Jennifer Bears, 14981 Briarwood Street. I work at the FBO, the Fixed Space Operator at the airport. I'm also a student pilot. I have the great privilege from my work experience to ascertain the unanimous value of safety in aviation. My lessons and teachings are from a lot of the pilots that we see here and that I meet at the airport and talk to on a daily basis. Also, the Coast Guard and military aviation professionals that grace us with their presence at the airport, along with the CFIs, which are the certified flight instructors, and the AMPs, which are the mechanics. Now, my favorite CFI was Mary Creason. No offense, Rick. And, you know, as she would advise, as do I, to not put any structure in the clear zone that would deter from the community's safety and of pilots and of student pilots like me. The safety of keeping a clear zone clear seems like a paramount safety standard for the airport and the surrounding community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Earl Bears, 16717 Sleeper Street. I was going to give the airport address. Airport manager. As already indicated, I think one of the key items in reflection to the solar panels is certainly safety. And the land that we're talking about was purchased with federal funds as a clear zone. And as the name implies, clear zone, which means that we would prefer that no objects be placed, no objects or obstructions be placed in that zone, period. Now, obviously, there's some things that could be put in there, for example, maybe a hayfield, but otherwise, it's the obligation of the sponsor of the airport to keep that zone as clear of objects as possible. And also, we have federal grant assurances that we're certainly obligated to follow. And so number one, the FAA certainly will have something to say about this. We have various forms to fill out for objects or obstructions that protrude into the airspace, and also land protection, such as the runway protection zone. And at our airport, since we have turbine aircraft on our field, we also have a clearway zone, which extends 1,875 feet from the end of the runway outward. And that has a different ratio as far as airspace is concerned. Instead of 20-1, which is a Part 77 surface, the surface is 80-1, so it's 4 times more stringent. And all of these things should be considered. And again, I think that safety is one of the most important things to be considered. And sacrificing safety at the airport to put in solar panels at the beginning of the approach or the end of the departure zone is not a very good idea. Thanks.
Thank you, Earl.
Yep.
Who else would like to address council at this time? After I close call to the audience, then your next opportunity to speak will be at the end of the meeting unless.
Mayor, we have a phone call.
After I close call to the audience, then your next opportunity to speak will be at the end of the meeting.
Hello, go ahead. They have their recording on, so it's echoing back.
I'm sorry about that. Hello, my name is Tricia Harrell. I'm sorry if there's a delay. I'm calling from out of the country right now, but I'd like to address the City Council on the topic of solar panels at the airport.
It's up all the way.
My address is 1330 Penoyer Avenue.
Tricia, go ahead, but you need to speak up. We have the volume all the way up, but can't hear you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. First, I would like to say that I am very pleased with the city's desire to pursue renewable energy. I think it's a great asset to our community, and I think it's compassionate of us to find ways for those who are not able to install solar panels on their home to still participate in renewable energy. Unfortunately, I think that the location for this proposal is not the best, and I think we've heard a lot about safety this evening. In addition to being a private pilot, I'm also an air traffic controller for the Federal Aviation Administration. And I just want to reiterate that even this past year, I've witnessed the benefit that comes from keeping the clear zone clear, as we had a student pilot have an engine failure on takeoff, and he was able to make a quick U-turn. We call it the impossible turn, and return to the airport safely. Putting solar panels in this area seems like it might be less of a hazard than the trees, but the FAA prefers that we remove all obstacles in the area of the approach and departure areas. So much so that they would consider this a new obstacle or new construction compared to the trees, which are an existing obstacle, and therefore they consider it differently when approving this. In addition, first, we have to address the fact that in order to get this through, it would be a lease that would require a release of the land purchased with federal funds. In order to do that, we would have to say that the property in question no longer serves the purpose for which it was made, subject to the terms, conditions, reservations, or restrictions concerned. Unfortunately, I don't think this meets that criteria. Incompatible land use and airport encroachment jeopardizes safety, restricts future use, future growth, and impacts operational efficiency. Grant Assurance number 31, paragraph C says that land should be considered to be needed for airport purposes under this assurance if it may be needed for aeronautical purposes, including runway protection zones, or to serve as a noise buffer. And additionally, the revenue from interim use of this land contributes to the financial self-sufficiency of the airport. So although the city would be funding, the city's Board of Light and Power would be funding this project, we do have a requirement to still provide fair value land use payment to the airport fund. So that's another consideration for this. And in order to do that, there are many fees that would be in conjunction with this project, such as the appraisal of the requested land. The airport grant assurance must be all complied with. There would need to be a solar glyph.
Hello, Tricia, are you there?
Hello. Yes, I'm sorry about that. And all of these additional costs are just part of the problem with this location, because you'll notice that other airports that have solar panels at the airport don't have them in the approach. So I fear that all of these things might, in addition to impacting safety, make the juice not worth the squeeze for this project.
Tricia, can you hear me?
Yes.
Tricia, this is Mayor Manessa. Your 3 minutes are up. Can you?
Okay, thank you for
quickly-
hearing
can you
me today.
very
I
quickly wrap
appreciate
up?
it.
She just said.
Oh, yes, that's fine. Thank you very much for hearing my comments.
Okay, thank you for calling in. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, who else would like to address council? This time I'm listening for the phone to ring. All right, so we do have 3 public hearings and then another call to the audience at the end. So let's move on then. And we have a presentation now on the fee schedule for the next fiscal year.
Yes, Emily Green, Finance Director for the city. Presenting the first draft of the fee schedule that will be included in the budget, the 26-27. And I just want to point out, I think it was in the packet, so you've probably seen that, but then the highlights on the areas show where the fees changed. Did you get the, do you have a presentation?
I don't have it up, no.
All right. The highlighted areas in the purple show fee changes. If the highlights on the left and the fees on the right are highlighted, those are the changes to the actual fee schedule. If the whole line is highlighted, then that is a new item that is on the fee schedule. And then if they're redacted, those are items that are going to be removed from the fee schedule. So the first thing, this is the first draft. We will take for your review and consideration. We'll take your input, and if we need to make some changes, we can do that. Staff is continuing to review and verify fees to make sure that they're covering the city expenses. That's something that we've been doing for the last couple of years, and we're continuing to do that. You'll notice that there seem to be fewer fee changes, new fees and deleted fees this year. It seems like as we get into this, we've made the changes that we need to make. And this one, we focused, Mulligan's Hollow, you'll notice, in Central Park Place, those fee structures we changed, and we replaced them with per-hour rates to better serve and meet public needs, and giving renters a better experience overall, and then also while reducing city costs. So that's Mulligan's Hollow and Central Park Place. And then I guess let me kind of drill down on those few things. Central Park Place, the fee structure was like it was structured per event, and instead of doing per event, we're looking at the rooms and basing those per hour. So if somebody needs, instead of a 4-hour rental, they want to rent for 2 hours, they'll be billed per hour instead of having to rent for the 4 hours at the cost. Mulligan's Lodge, we are proposing an 8-hour rental option, or up to 8-hour rental option. And that's to offer flexibility to renters as well as help with operational efficiencies. And then another big one is the downtown trash pickup. The residential rate is going to be set to the standard residential rate throughout the city. The commercial and restaurant variable is going to be based on calculations by lot and occupancy instead of how it was with the residential equivalent units and intensity fees. So basically, the restaurants that use a certain dumpster in a certain lot will be charged for those costs for that dumpster, and then for all of them, instead of the costs being spread equally amongst all of the commercial and restaurant businesses. So that's kind of the highlight that I have. We, again, will continue to update this as we see changes that are needed, that are brought forward. But I'm here for any questions if you have them.
All right, thanks, Emily. Questions, comments?
I think more of a clarification on the airport fund, the tie-down fee.
Yes.
Am I reading that correctly, that it went from $25 a day to $100 a month?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
The airport board had that discussion, and Tom called me last week and said airport board wanted to change it from $25 a day to $100 a month. So.
Okay. And I guess then that's part of the budget conversation
Yes.
in April and how that
Yeah.
affect that? Okay.
As I recall that conversation, they weren't actually charging anyone $25 a day, but somebody who was there for a long period of time, they felt should pay something.
Okay.
So it's more suitable to what they're actually operating.
And then I guess my only other comment was, I think both the Mulligan's Hollow and the Central Park Place just simplifies everything, and based on one of the meetings I attended, that seems to help a lot for our rental.
Yes, exactly.
Options, yeah.
It's a lot cleaner when you look at the fee schedule and you look at how much has been taken out and then look at what replaces it. We agree. And that was the intent.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for this.
I think will help get Central Park Place used more often too,
Yeah.
than, in small increments.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that was the desire of the community center board. Trying to find ways to make that more versatile and easier to understand, for one thing. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you why the bed and breakfast fee jumped from $50 to $100.
Yes, and fair enough. So the bed and breakfast fee, this is the first time that it's actually on the fee schedule, the first pages of the fee schedule. It is, however, and has been on the last page under the list of ordinances. The bed and breakfast was listed there. So we added it, I added it not only in the list of ordinances, but also put it in the fee schedule. But that fee did not, when we looked at the fees relating to those types of inspections and administration, that one was missed. So it's the renewal, it consists of time, background check, review by zoning, and fire marshal, and then site inspection. And so to cover costs for those things, it was increased from $50 to $100.
Well, they don't get a new zoning inspection once they're established.
But the renewal, when they need to renew the bed and breakfast, they do, my understanding is they do have a site inspection.
Well, they have to be inspected, but you said something about zoning. That wouldn't be a factor.
For the initial zoning. It's the
So-
same, yeah,
So some of these rental inspection fees have an initial fee and then a renewal fee, which is smaller.
right.
And for those that are established, I guess I'd like to know how much more work it is to inspect a bed and breakfast versus
Anybody,
a
anywhere
a
else?
rental dwelling unit, because now you have them different.
Sure.
And I'm having trouble understanding that there is a difference.
And I can ask that question and follow up.
Okay. Fair enough. I understand this is a draft.
It is.
I have a few items that I will put in an email and get to Ashley for you that
Sure.
will be easier for you to probably take a look at and get back to me with on that. One of the ones that I noticed though was like the events package for Central Park Place.
Yes.
We were charging $2,000 for a 4-hour rental, which has now gone to $250 an hour. So basically cuts the price of that in half. A lot of the other ones either stayed the same or went up a little bit. I don't know if that was something that was intentional or maybe to try to get a little more use out of that area, or?
I think, well, we are trying to get a little more use out of it, but also there were several life events that were listed, and so I can look at that as well. But I don't believe, well, I'll look at that to make
Okay.
sure that
Yeah, not a problem.
there were several different life events listed, and so we just put one life event with the per hour, and I think given the use that it's had in the past, that per hour made sense to us, but we'll look at that again.
Yep, I'll get the email to you. That'll be a lot easier than to sit here and try to go through them all.
Perfect.
Other questions, comments? Okay, well, thank you for this taste of the fee schedule.
Yes,
And then
Thanks.
we'll revisit this in more detail when we have our work session.
perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Emily.
So that brings us to our consent agenda. Maria, would you like to read that?
Item A, approve the regular council meeting minutes for February 2nd, 2026. Item B, approve the bills memo in the amount of $571,914.28. Item C, approve an extension to the contract with Tough Turf Mole Busters of Byron Center, Michigan for fertilization of city property in the budgeted amount of $48,205. Item D, approve a grant agreement for the Pre-Development Accelerator Program funding awarded through the Michigan Infrastructure Office for the Grant Reconstruction Project. And item E, award a contract authorizing Task Order 27, Task 37, CCR Data Collection Work Plan to HDR of Ann Arbor, Michigan in the budgeted amount of $232,377, contingent upon approval and reimbursement by the Board of Light and Power, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute necessary documents.
Can I get a motion on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Dora, second by Fritz. Any comment on any of these items? Please call the roll.
Dora,
Yes.
Fritz,
Yes.
Lyon,
Yes.
Callio,
Yes.
Manetza.
Yes. So we have one item of unfinished business.
Item A, consideration by City Council of a final resolution to approve the zoning change request from TI Transitional Industrial District to PD Planned Development District and associated preliminary development plan for a mixed-use development at 1500 Coiman Street, parcel number 70-03-28-301-019.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Fritz, second by Callio. Is anything new come up?
No.
Any questions, comments?
No.
This is our second reading. We passed this at our last meeting, but we're required by charter to do 2 readings. If there's nothing new, then
I would just like to know if we've had any further discussions on the traffic issues that came up last time. If it
and who are you want Brian to respond to that or the applicants? Brian can start. So, yeah, let's,
Yeah, those issues that were discussed, I'm sure they'll be reached over to the respective departments that would be issuing that regarding that, because no changes have been made, but obviously, when you have a use that's coming in that's more intense, and you have, in that case, a lot of snowfall, and sometimes where there's just learning, you gotta be able to kind of be compatible with adjacent uses, that's, part of the deal, and so I think that's just part of the process of being able, when they go to the final development plan, which would be the next step, those questions would need to be answered at that time. So that can be part of our review process as a planning commission when we talk with the Public Safety Department about those concerns that were brought up at that time. And I'll let the applicant, if they had any other things to add, I'll let them say something too.
Todd Anthus, Skolton Fant, business address 100 North 3rd Street, Grand Haven. There has been no additional discussions, no reach out by anybody else on the street to indicate that there's any dissatisfaction with ingress and egress. But as the applicant pledged before, they're going to monitor it and be a good neighbor, essentially. And we don't have any other further comments. If there's questions or concerns or anything new from your perspective, we're happy to answer.
okay, thanks, Todd. Does that answer your question? Any other questions?
No.
Okay. Let's call the roll.
Fritz,
Yes.
Callio,
Yes.
Dora,
Yes.
Lyon,
Yes.
Manetza.
Yes. All right, brings us to our first public hearing. At this point, I'll open a public hearing regarding the resolution to file special assessment rule number 605. So in this public hearing, first, I guess that, should I call on Ashley or on Shandi?
Either way, this is, again, just a formality step in the process. You authorized this public hearing at your previous meeting, and this is really the presentation of that role as we near the end of our special assessment process. And Shandi is here as well, if there are any questions specific to that.
Okay. Shandi, did you have anything to contribute before we go to the public? Okay, fair enough. So the public hearing is open. Anyone would like to make a comment on the special assessment role for the principal shopping district? If no one would like to comment, then I'm going to close the public hearing. And now that brings us to our next item.
Consideration by City Council of a resolution to file special assessment roll number 605. The MSDDA recommends approval and administration recommends approval.
All right, can I get a motion?
Moved.
Second.
Motion by Doris, second by Callio. Comments, questions? Anyone? Just one more step in the process, but now the city's assessor, which is the county assessor, has produced a specific role, and that will be the basis of the assessment going forward for the next 5 years unless we reopen at some point and revise it. Okay. Let's call the roll.
Dora,
Yes.
Callio,
Yes.
Fritz,
Yes.
Lyon,
Yes.
Manetza.
Yes. All right, now we'll open a public hearing regarding the resolution to establish an obsolete property rehabilitation district at 123 Washington Avenue, parcel 7003, 2405, 018. Legal description of west 44 feet of lots 161, 162, original plat, excluding the most northerly part used for alley purposes, the original plat, and to establish a finding that is an obsolete property in an area characterized by obsolete commercial property or commercial housing property pursuant to Section 31A of the Obsolete Property Rehabilitation Act, Public Act 146 of 2000. So that is the public hearing, and we will start with Dana.
Yes. Thank you. Good evening, council. So as the mayor had just described, we have a project that we're very excited about that is proposing to redevelop 123 Washington, which is commonly referred to as the Flotos building downtown. The owner is here this evening, Andrew Tots, and his representative, Jared Belka, that have prepared a request for the creation of an Oprah district. The county assessor has gone out and established that the property does meet the definition of obsolete property, and that was included in your packet. They are proposing to rehabilitate the existing structure, the ground floor commercial space, for a retail or a restaurant purpose, and the upper story would be converted, or rehabbed rather, the two existing residential units to be rehabbed and a third unit added to the structure itself. The proposed project is roughly a $2 million investment, and the request specifically for the Oprah is approximately $252,104, excuse me, in the abatement over a 12-year period. They're also requesting MEDC grant funding and tax increment financing funding, which is the second public hearing before you this evening. I will kick it over to the representatives of the project to expand on anything regarding the project.
All right, come up, please introduce yourselves.
I'm Andrew Totes, the owner of the property.
Jared Belka with Warner Norcross, office address 150 Ottawa in Grand Rapids, working with Andy on this project. So we appreciate your time this evening and thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. You'll have to excuse me, I spent the weekend coaching and cheering on my son in a hockey tournament in South Bend, so I'm a little hoarse, so I'll apologize in advance. But yeah, Dana gave a great overview. This is obviously the Flotos building. I'll start by saying the question that Andy got when he acquired the property and started proposing to redevelop this is, you're not going to take the facade off, right? So they've done painstaking care and investigation in trying to respect that character and maintain that, and that is their intent. As Dana mentioned, the renovating, kind of reconfiguring the upstairs existing units, adding an additional unit. I believe there will be a rooftop amenity for the tenants. Main floor programmed. Andy's really targeting for a restaurant for the first floor. He's talked to a handful of prospective tenants. Doesn't have one locked down yet, but obviously once hammers start swinging, that brings in the excitement and things become real at that point. Dana mentioned the proposed investment. That doesn't include expected tenant build out, which would obviously add to that bottom line for investment. I think we all appreciate the fact the world we live in these days, construction costs have gone nowhere but up. Interest rates, remain high. It makes these projects tough to pencil. So we're here tonight seeking your partnership with the use of the tools that Dana outlined to help this make financial sense. The project's been reviewed by Plant Moran. They've provided a report, which I believe was provided to you. That underscores the fact that this is a thin deal with the requested support. So your support would be greatly appreciated in being able to move this forward. Andy and his team stand ready to move forward if we get that support. So happy to answer any questions. I'll stop talking now and allow you guys to answer or ask questions. And again, we'll be happy to answer them. So thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Well, we're in a public hearing at this point, so if members of the public would now like to come forward and comment to council on this particular issue, please do so now. If no one is coming forward, then I will close the public hearing. And on this agenda, all we have is the public hearing, because our policy says that we will wait till our next meeting before we actually take action. Just to summarize, though, the obsolete property district that we're being asked to create is a single building,
Correct.
and just single parcel as described in this agenda item. I guess I would, if any members of the council would like to say something or ask a question, I think that'd be appropriate. Anyone?
Yeah. I didn't know we were going to get to do this tonight. So.
Well, I mean, we aren't actually doing anything else tonight, but I just thought this wouldn't be a bad thing to, if you wanted to say something. Otherwise, we'll wait 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I guess I just want to know, looking at this and going through all the information and reading all this today, I feel like the brownfield tax removal, what's being asked for 25 years, I just think that's a lot. And for me, when we're building apartments in this town and we're asking for 100% AMI, and we're asking to rent apartments at 750 square feet at least 1,300, which I think is way less than what those will be listed for, way less than what you'll get rent for, especially in this town right now. They'll be closer to 1,700, 14, 15, 16, 1,700, especially downtown. That's just really, really hard for me. Really, really, really hard for me. I have a hard time with 12 years for the Okra too. I owned a restaurant downtown, so I'm with you. I understand what it means. I owned a business down there. I run one on the east side right now. So I know it's hard. I know what it means to build out. I know what it means. Like, I understand that it's hard. I also know what it means. Like, I also know what I was doing for rent downtown, and I know what somebody is renting the business now for downtown. And I also know that number was low in your projections with Plant Moran. So I know the money that can come in from that, and I think it was low all across the board in the numbers. So I just have a hard time with the numbers across the board for what's being asked, and I just want to make that known.
Okay.
I'm going to always preface this conversation with, I know that your job is to make your business as profitable as possible, and our job is to take a look at the numbers and see what's feasible and the best value for our city. That's not always going to line up, but I have no qualms with people asking for things. I think it's our job to be the representatives of the city, particularly when we're looking at tax concerns. And I would love to be able to see, when we're talking about $262,000, what that could mean in value for our city. I'm always going to look at it from the the people of our city and the tax dollars they pay. And $262,000 is a drop in the bucket of what we're going to be needing for moving forward for infrastructure, but it is how we grow that fund to be able to pay for those things. And I think that particularly when we're not looking at a benefit of workforce housing, and we're not looking at extreme remediation or dilapidation, it is hard for me to be completely fine with a tax abatement. So I would like to better understand the numbers also, and I would also like to better understand our processes to make sure that we're doing what we can to be a partner in that way for developers without having to kind of give money away at the end of it. So,
Okay.
thank you.
Anyone else? I'll throw in your 2 cents.
Yeah, the tax abatements are always, especially the TIFs, are always a double-edged sword for us. We know that developers, property owners such as yourself, look for these tools that are offered in order to better be able to cover the costs associated with what you're doing. The downside for the city is it freezes the tax income for the next 20, 25 years while our costs continue to rise. So we have to be kind of careful on how many of these we actually give out, because if we don't continually keep up with our rising costs, then we have budget issues that we fight all the time, and we can't do the things that we need to do, such as clearing snow from sidewalks. I mean, this is an example. So it's a double-edged sword for me. You know, we want the development, we want, you know, a vibrant downtown, we want to, you know, have all the things that go with that and look nice, but yet it's hard to keep a portion of the taxes coming in as well. So anything that you can do to look at that and possibly reduce that to a shorter term or make it a little more palatable for the city's end would be great on my end. But I also understand you have costs that you have to deal with as well too, so appreciate that.
Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
Anything?
Well, these are a lot of the tools that the state has set up for them to use, and they have to follow strict guidelines in order to get that money. That I agree with you, Mike, on the two-edged sword type look at it, because without the development, you know, a good example is we had Grand Landing, we put it off, but now when it comes into fruition like it is right now at this time, we're starting to see that come back to us really well because of the investment they put into it. So if you don't get the investment, you don't get the big tax. If it just stays where it is right now, you're not going to go anywhere with it. But it's still a lot of money, whether you like it or not. You know, you're right, you're freezing the taxes for that time. Well, we're in the obsolete one here, it'd be 12 years, so.
Yep.
Then you got the other one on top, which is 25 on top of it. So
Coming up.
you join the two of them together, and it's really a difficult time. But if you don't get the investment, you don't get any kind of growth, you're not going to capture any tax, you're not going to get any further ahead. So we have to be very careful when we say yes or no on these things. But the thing is, if we start saying no to everything, then our town doesn't grow. We need to have it grow somehow, and we have to have it, that tool that they have to use is really a good tool for us. I'd like to see the money come down a little lower also. I mean, we always do want to see that, I mean, one way or another. I'm on the EDC board, and that when they came and proposed it to us when we were there, that's what I was questioning the dollars at the time. So that's my point.
I just think the years need to be looked at, right?
Oh, yes.
The timeframe just needs to be reviewed.
Okay. I think that, you know, the purpose of the public hearing, the purpose of the meeting tonight is to good constructive feedback to the applicants. And I think that they've gotten that tonight, so appreciate everybody's thoughts. And on that note, because this will come up again at our next meeting as an action item. On that note, I will move on to our second public hearing, which is the same property. This one is for the brownfield plan, which is the tax capture portion of this, which would be for a period of 25 years. And without further ado, I'll open this public hearing. Dana, is there more to contribute or just roll into it?
Just very quickly, I would just add what the eligible activities are for reimbursement. I just want to hit on that quickly, is demolition, lead and asbestos abatement, and rehabilitation of the units and the new unit for housing development activities.
Okay. Any other comments from the applicants on this?
Thank you. Hi again. So I appreciate the comments and feedback, and I'll mention a couple of those things. One, the term, I understand the term, unfortunately, is the term just given what the estimates of incremental value is generated, right? So the term of the TIF request is because that's what the projected tax increment. Obviously, if there's an investment of $200 million, and the same dollar amount's being requested, it shortens that amount. One item on the rent component for it, we actually were estimating higher rents in there. Plant Moran actually reviewed and pushed back and said they couldn't find any comps to support that. So we actually brought those down from what we had originally anticipated based on their feedback. As far as the, this is for the brownfield, I'll save discussion for the next meeting on the Oprah piece, savings, but no, Dana summarized it up well. If you look at the costs, a good portion of those are demolition and abatement. Obviously, it's an existing old building with significant challenges, and that's really what's driving us being here requesting support from you. So I'll pause there and leave it at that. But again, we appreciate your consideration of this request.
All right, thank you. So we are now in a public hearing about the brownfield plan for Flota's building. If anybody would like to come forward and speak to council on this particular issue. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. And we kind of went around and shared thoughts on the project in general. Do we need to say more, or are we ready to move on? Okay, so this.
The only thing,
Go ahead.
for the brownfield one, there are only costs that they can go for. There's only certain things they're allowed to go for, just so people understand. It's not where they just come and get money for it. These are actually costs that they have to follow through with on. There's, there's asbestos in there and everything else. It's remediation for all that stuff. The same thing when we do a brownfield. They can only collect what they can do with certain things. It's not, they can make a profit on it, so just let them know.
Yep, eligible costs, they're well defined.
Everything is eligible.
Okay, well then I guess we will, at this point, we'll move on with our agenda to our first item of new business. Marie, would you read that?
Item A, consideration by City Council of an easement agreement between the City of Grand Haven and the Grand Haven Board of Light and Power for the use of airport property for the installation of community solar contingent upon all required regulatory permitting and approvals. The Sustainability Commission recommends approval, the Airport Board recommends denial, and Administration recommends approval.
Okay, can I get a motion?
Moved.
Second.
Motion by Dora, second by Callio. So Ashley, do you want to take the lead on this?
Yeah, I'll just very briefly say that staff is pleased to recommend that council entertain an easement agreement ultimately with another city entity in order to accomplish a long-desired community solar project within the city limits. And just to clarify, before I hand this over to General Manager Rob Shelley with the Board of Light and Power, just to summarize the project. But it is our standard practice to ultimately pursue commentary and recommendation from our local advisory groups. That's why before you tonight, you have the recommendation from our Sustainability and Energy Commission, as well as the Airport Board, in order to help inform you as you look to make a decision to not ultimately circumvent the regulatory process, but this would be incumbent upon the Board of Light and Power to seek those approvals through the state and federal process if this were to proceed after tonight. So with that, I'll hand it over to Rob to just briefly introduce the project and what's being proposed.
Okay.
Thanks for having me tonight. I'm Rob Shelley, the General Manager of the Board of Light and Power. In your packet, I gave you a kind of a slide deck to kind of give you some oversight of what we're really talking about there. So I won't go through that in the interest of time. I think there's some things in there that it's really important is the slide there for everybody is what I call the BLP concept. Kind of lays out what we mean when we talk about a community solar garden. So what we keep saying to everybody is this is a community project. So we're coming here for community support. This is not being done as a BLP project, what I would say is a power supply project or even a financial hedge to help with our power supply costs. So this is really being done as a chance for others to be able to participate in a solar project that maybe don't have the means, whether they're renters or maybe they live on the dunes and they're covered with trees, et cetera. So there's been desire for this, so we're trying to bring this forward, and we're just trying to be the champion of that for the community project. The idea here is, with the easement, is we would have a project life of about 20 years at minimum. So what we're saying is that people would be able to lease or buy these solar panels for 20 years, and they would get the output accredited back on their board light and power bill over that time frame. So buy it up front, and then we credit you back as we go. The board has said they're willing to move forward and take on the risk of building the project at a 33% subscription rate. So we're saying we want 1/3 of the panels sold or leased to the community, and at that point, we feel comfortable enough to move forward with the project and up the rest of the cash to get the project done. So nothing will move forward until we hit that criteria. Even, no matter what happens tonight, if we don't hit that criteria, if you can't have a community project without the community, right? The idea is once we get going on this and we get some of the answers fully put down, we'll come up with a dollar value, what that lease would be to participate in the project. We'd ask and solicit those funds, and we'd put that money in an escrow account, hold on to it to the time when the project does go forward. If it doesn't go forward, we just refund those dollars. As you can imagine, we're taking on the risk or the cost of ensuring the project, maintaining it, and we are planning on demoing the project when it's done. So once the project is over, sometime after 20 years, we will plan on putting the site back to where it is. We'll move all the panels, remove the wiring, et cetera, and put it back to open space. One thing I want to put out there is a customer can transfer ownership. So we're asking you to make a 20-year commitment as a customer to buy in. You can, at that point, if you move in our system, you can move it with you. You can leave it on the building, and so let's say you sold your house and you're going to move out. You could have that as a selling feature, that you'll get a BLP credit on your electric bill for the next X number of years. Or we're going to allow you to transfer it to a nonprofit. So once you buy this, like I said, when we go to the selling this to the customers, it would be a 20-year commitment. So what is really the ask at this point is we're kind of at a stalemate here. We need to know with some certainty before we can go into the design, permitting, et cetera phase of the project that we have an area picked out. That's the ask tonight. The easement is to say that, hey, we're committed to this idea. That means we're going to have to go out and do FAA permits. That means we're going to have to come back and we have to do a special land use permit because that will be considered a power generating facility. So we got to go through the planning process. There's a sensitive area overlay issue we'll have to deal with there. So there's lots of other things that we have to go through before anything ever gets done. But we need that certainty so we can move forward into the design phase. I can't put a design together and go get FAA permits if I don't know where it's going to go or what it's going to look like. So that's kind of where we're at that crossroads. So that's the idea tonight is to see if City Council shares that same vision that the Sustainability Committee, the Board of Light and Power is looking at to try to move this forward and really get us into that next phase of the project. So in your packet, you'll see the the actual easement agreement. This easement agreement has been reviewed and written by the city attorney. So it is done that. I think there might be some things we want to tweak just for clarification, but for example, I think one thing that the mayor and I talked about is it says we'll clear the trees from the airport property. The idea is we'll do that if we move forward. We're not going to go out there tomorrow and start cutting down trees. We're going to wait to make sure the project's really a go before we do any real spend or any unreversible tree removals. So, but in there, it kind of gives you an idea of Exhibit B in the packet is the easement area. As you can see, what we're proposing is just the westernmost 300 feet of that part of the property. That is outside. I've heard some people talking about the runway protection zone, or they call it the RPZ. It's outside the RPZ. Even if they extend the runway, we're out past that. We're out past the object-free area. You know, we've looked at the FAA requirements. We think this is a viable solution. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. But once again, it will require us to go to the FAA for approval. It will require us to, once again, go through the planning process, all those things. That's not what's getting talked about tonight. Tonight is just saying, we agree with the concept. Feel free to move forward and nail those things down. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions or entertain any discussion.
All right. Thank you, Rob. So, questions and comments from council members?
Well, after the discussions today about having an open area and having that discussion where there was an open area, kept like splitting it and maybe widening further down the edge and keeping an area in the middle open for a landing strip or something through the trees. have we thought of other ways to do it, keeping the same, like, do they have to be all connected? Can there be a space between them where a plane could land?
So what I'm proposing here right now is that area is about a 5 acres if I do it, so about 300 foot wide by, I think, 750 foot in the north-south direction. That should facilitate, if we were able to use 100% of that land, which I'm not sure we will be able to, about 1 megawatt of solar panels. We're proposing 0.3 megawatts. So roughly, we need about a third of that space today. Why did I want more land than that? In case this goes well, we can do a phase 2 or a phase 3. So at this point, I would assume if I was designing it, I would want their south-facing fixed panels. I would put them at the southern end. So it probably wouldn't just naturally go in that direction of leaving that middle open. But I did mention there's a sensitive area overlay there. So we will probably need to do a wetlands delineation to figure out exactly where we can put those solar panels. So that may dictate some of it. So maybe not all that land will be usable. So we'll have to work that through with the design as well. But as I think you can probably see from the aerial photograph, that area is fully wooded right now. We're planning on taking out, for the easement, we're planning on taking out all the trees in that parcel for the airport. So they will have actually more clear space than they have today. Just to the west of there, the Board Light Power already has a power line on 45-foot poles. Just to the west of that, Consumers Energy has an even taller power line there. We're talking about putting something in the ground that's going to be 10 to 15 foot high. So my personal opinion is I don't think we're adding any or taking away any safety features. I think we're actually adding. We're going to clear that. You're going to have more clear space than you have today. Those trees will be gone. It helps the airport board, in my opinion, the fact that they'll never have to trim trees again, right? They're going to be gone. Solar panels don't grow. You don't have to trim them. You don't have to come out and put that in your line item budget like they're doing. I know they're spending money this year to remove some of those trees out there. I think they've got money spent, already decided to do, I think, about 3 acres this year to take trees out in that location. So this would be something that is a forever give, how else to put it, right? You're going to take these trees out, and as long as you mow it, they're not going to come back. So I think this is a good example of how, as a community, we can work together for a win of getting a solar development for a community project. Anything we have to spend on this, we're passing those costs straight through. It's just going to raise the cost for people to ultimately buy panels. This land, I agree with them, it's dead land. There's not a lot of use for this land. You can't build a bunch of structures there. You can't really develop it. So I think this is a win-win where they can get more clear space, the community can get a solar project, and you're able to use land that is otherwise unusable.
I just want to say, I appreciate the BLP, taking the lead on this whole project and that. But the only thing I have a problem is what's the rush, for one thing? Why are we rushing this through when we have our denial from our airport board with circumstances why, and we have not heard from the FAA or anybody else on what we can do or can't do? Why didn't we ask them beforehand to get the report to us? I don't have any reports there. I'm just going by you're saying, what they're saying. I don't have the information. I would like to have that before I go forward. I can't believe we're rushing this through. Anytime we make a quick decision, it's not a good decision because there's consequences you might have to pay. You don't know. I'd like to have some kind of report. I want to know why we didn't get a report from FAA. We had enough time to ask them questions. Did we ask them? Did anybody in our group here ask FAA or any kind of report that would get back to us saying, yes, it might be, or no, it can't be? Why would we spend all this time? You're wasting my time up here. We don't have any answer. I don't have the answers right now. I can't make a decision on this because I don't have it. I don't think we should be making a decision on this until we get a clear view. You can say, yeah, it's going to be a clear area, but if the FAA says no, why are you wasting my time here now? We should have had that in our information packet when we came here to do this job. That's what we should have before we make a decision on this. I'm not going to make a decision. I'd like to table this if we, by any chance, if we could, until we get some information so we can make a clear decision on whether we want to give an easement or not. I'm not against the solar panels and that. I really think it's a great idea. That's the reason why when we first came to us with it, I said, yeah, it's a great idea. but let's bring it to the board, at our board, and see what their concept is. I want to make sure that we do this the correct way. I don't want to waste your time, I don't want to waste my time, I don't want to waste staff's time. I'd like to see what the results might be for us.
Rob, would you like to explain why you didn't go to FAA first?
Absolutely. Just like you'd have in your planning or developments here, I can't come to you or the FAA and ask for permits to build something that I don't have rights to.
I didn't ask it for permission, I just want to know, if we do this, what the consequences might be. It's all a question you got to ask. Build anything. What can we do here if we can do that? It'd be so simple.
It sounds like it would be, but that's not how they work. You have to give them details. They want to know where the panel's going to be, how high are they going to be. All those design details we don't have yet. So they have guidelines, the Part 77, the airport layout plans, so on and so forth, that you can go through, just like we have a building code. And you can look and say, okay, or our zoning ordinances say, does this fit? I believe it does. I believe it does fit. So now we're to the next stage of saying, okay, I believe it fits. Now can we get the details together, bring it to the FAA, and say yes or no? And if they say no, we're done. But I can't go to somebody and ask him for permission to build something that I don't have details for, or I have approval to use that land.
Did we ask, I'm asking Ashley, did we ask FAA if we do build anything on there, do we have to give money back?
Not if it's in compliance with their regulations.
You don't have to give them a
no.
plan on it. I just want to know. It says, if we plan on doing something, it's a simple question to ask. If we plan on doing something, just ask the question. If we plan on building something or putting something on there, are we liable to give money back? You know how much money we have tied up in that airport with the FAA and that and state?
Yeah, and I would just add, if it's not in violation, that wouldn't be a concern. But again, it's been standard practice for us over time to seek concurrence from our boards and commissions as advisory commissions to council prior to seeking outside regulatory approvals. Again, I wouldn't suspect there'd be a concern if we're not in violation of FAA rules. But we discover that through the permitting process. And again, this is not an uncommon thing, as advised most recently by the provider that assisted us with our community energy plan for the county. These kind of projects happened all over, or do happen all over on airport property. So again, we would certainly work within the compliance of our regulatory bodies, but we wouldn't expect there to be a concern, nor would we act outside of what's permitted.
I can understand the points that you're getting at, Mike. I've been to several presentations that Rob has given at the airport board and other places. I've been to several of the airport board meetings. I've kind of delved into a lot of this on my own, and I feel like I know just maybe enough to be dangerous with it. I don't feel like I know all the answers, and I don't like that. I don't like to make a decision when I don't know all the answers and the consequences of those. I've done some research online, and a lot of the things state that, if you're developing a lease, the first thing you want to do is run it past the local authorities and the FAA to make sure that it meets their criteria so that your obligations don't pop up and you have to pay a bunch of money back because it didn't meet what they think it should. I'm not saying I don't want the panels there. I think sustainability and energy approves the panel concept, and they would probably approve it of just about anywhere as we decided to put it. If we said, let's put it on Harbor Island where the old soccer field used to be because nobody uses it anymore, I think sustainability and energy would say, great place. So, they support the project. I'm necessarily maybe not where it is there, but they would anywhere else as well. So I guess, I've been through all the, the runway protection zones and the clear areas and, the obstacle-free areas and obstruction-free areas and all the abbreviations of all of those, and spent a whole day on the computer trying to figure out what we can do and what we can't do, and never really did find a good answer, other than you can't put a fuel depot there, you can't put a church there, you can't put a shopping center there. you can put a golf course there or an agricultural use. When it comes down to solar panels, it says that, yeah, maybe with FAA approval, but only after jumping through a bunch of hoops and explaining to them why it can't be located anyplace else. I mean, it seems like a description of each alternative location, including a narrative discussion and exhibits or figures depicting the alternative. And then they ask for cost estimates as to why where you're putting it is cheaper than where it isn't. I mean, there's like 13 different things to go with this form. So it seems like there's a lot of effort that's going to be involved in this to get them to say yeah or no. I'm not quite sure that it's worth it. I mean, when I looked at the presentations for the payback that you're estimating for people who are going to own these, I kind of wonder if it's really, I mean, I understand the green energy and the solar aspect, but you're not buying them as an investment, believe me. So I'm kind of where Mike is. I'd like to see somebody come up and say, yeah, you can actually do it, and let's make a decision to do that then, or no, you can't. I understand the safety aspect. I appreciate all the people from the airport that came and presented that. The one thing I didn't hear any of them mention, everybody was talking about the safety for the airplanes taking off. You know, you hear on WAWL, you read in the paper all the time, skydiver misses his mark and lands on top of a roof over here, and he's in a tree over there, and he had to cut his chute loose because it didn't open. The last thing I want to hear is a skydiver misses his mark and lands on a bunch of solar panels. You know, I guess you can't protect everybody from everything, but.
I mean, trees aren't better. Like,
I don't know if a tree's better or not. I mean, so I would kind of like to know as well, I mean, Mike had some good points that, you know, does the FAA say, yeah, that's an area where we can do it? Go ahead and do it. I mean, if they're on board with it, I'm on board with it. If they say, no, you can't do it there, then we'll find another spot. But, you know, maybe the old soccer field, I don't know. But that's kind of where I sit. I mean, I'd like a lot more information.
Yeah, and that's what I said. One of my next question was going to be, have we talked to the FAA? I guess from our standpoint, if we don't want to sign an easement, right, something so formal, would we be willing to sign a letter of intent? So if it's a cart before the horse situation and the FAA wants something from us that says, if they say yes, we'll say yes. Or, you know, like, so that there isn't a stalled out situation, can we do a memorandum of understanding or a letter of intent that says we are willing, or we're, you know, like, if they are going to say yes, would we say yes? You know,
Well, I guess if I can chime in, because I've been following this very closely, and I've been listening to both sides. I've been to all the airport board meetings. I've talked to Rob a number of times, and I think that exactly what Mike Doris said was the problem that Rob has. That in order to get the FAA to tell you anything, they have to go through all that stuff. They have to present all that. And Rob doesn't want to put that much time and effort and money into it unless we're willing to make a binding commitment that, well, if you do all that and they say yes, then we'll move forward. I think that's the case where we're at now. So this chicken and egg thing that we're talking about is somebody has to express this willingness to move forward in a binding manner before he'll spend all that money to figure it out. And FAA won't give him an answer until he does that. And so going to the FAA first would have been a waste of time because they would have sent it right back, well, where's all this stuff? And then it would be back to, is the BLP willing to do all this without knowing whether or not council would say yes? So I think the easement that's in front of us is one that would be highly conditioned on FAA approvals and us not having to pay back for land and all those various things. I mean, the airport board had a number of things that they were concerned about. They passed a resolution saying, recommending denial. They had a number of points. They felt that there would be a fair market value associated with the rent, even though it's a department of the city and another department of the city, and the land is commonly owned by, all this land is titled to the city of Grand Haven. I'm not sure where this fair market value figures in, but that would be a question that FAA would have to weigh in on at some point. And here again, until you ask with the right detail, you're not going to get any kind of answer. They talked about this extra runway length, whether or not that's applicable, whether or not crashing into solar panels is worse than crashing into trees. I'm not sure I'd want to crash into either. This at least gets the trees, which are taller and denser, out of the way. Tricia didn't like the language of the proposed easement. Well, the easement is prepared by legal staff and by administrative staff, and that's where easements come from, as opposed to boards and commissions. Ben was concerned about the FAA money used to purchase the clear zone, carries this obligation. That would be an obligation that FAA would speak to once you get to the point of asking them this question, which won't be asked if we are unwilling to say, move forward with some kind of commitment. There was potential loss of airport use of the property going forward, which could be forever. But the use of the property is basically this geometry of this clear zone approach and such, which they're over in an area where there's 60-foot tall power poles already, and they're basically in the shadow of all that. So I'm not sure how FAA would view that, but again, the question won't get asked of FAA without some kind of commitment on the part of this council. And I believe the easement before us is conditioned on all those answers being positive. And the only way that we find out is if they're willing to spend the time and effort to prepare the documents to get the answers. And so we're at this catch-22, you go first, you go first. And so somebody needs to go first. If we need to postpone and come up with more thinking time on this, but I think that's the situation we're in now. We've heard numerous people from the airport board speak with their concerns with safety. There was also concern of the future use of the airport. This runway extension, this is beyond where the runway extension would have an effect anyway. It's beyond that next section of the RPZ on the ground, this region, this area 1 in zoning, which says nothing can be built there. It's beyond that. It's in a place where there's already tall things and there's already tall trees. So I think that Rob has done a lot of homework on this on his own. He's worked with consultants to understand the regulations. The airport board is concerned about whether or not the airport remains viable going into the future, but actually the plans for that extension of the runway were approved in September 2001. And we've done nothing in the past 25 years to talk about extending the runway other than just talk, and I don't foresee it happening in my lifetime. And even if it did, it wouldn't affect this project. So for all those reasons, I would be in favor of saying, well, if this is heavily conditioned on those FAA approvals and not putting us in a bind with losing our property rights and having to pay back grants, that I would move forward just to get the process moving along. That's my feeling. All the other questions won't get answered until we have the means to ask the questions.
Go ahead. I'll wait.
I want to thank the people that came from the airport board and spoke about safety. I mean, I think that's an absolute concern of all of us on this committee. But what I'm hearing very clearly is that I think what we're voting on, and I think what you just said, is that we're voting on if the FAA approves this property and approves the safety of it, and we are not required to pay back, that we are saying that this property is where we would approve to be building solar panels. And so I think there are so many, conditions to this vote besides, the actual land itself. All we're voting, I think, on today is whether or not you have enough ability to say to the FAA, yes, if it is decided that it is a safe place to build and we don't have financial problems or having to repay back anything, that this is a place that our city has agreed that we could build solar panels.
Correct.
That
is correct.
accurate? Okay.
Yeah, you are the airport sponsor. So I can't go, once again, and ask to do things on your property without your permission. I mean, that's kind of a very basic thought process here. That's what I'm trying to get at is, all I'm asking for is your nod today that, yes, if this is all, we cross all the Ts and dot all the Is, get our approvals. I mean, like I said, we got sensitive overlay to do. We've got special land use permit. I got with the planning commission, all those things before anything's ever going to happen.
And then past that, so say the FAA comes back and approves, is there another vote for the council to take the next step?
Well, you'd be granting an easement at this point with those conditions. Conditions satisfied, the easement is granted.
Okay.
That's the way this is written.
Okay. I'm for this in the sense that I believe that having the protection of the FAA and MDOT looking at this, it feels like it's a hard enough pass to get through it that they're going to be looking at the safety and requirements of it. That being said, once we have those details, I hope that everyone would feel more confident about it. But, you know, sustainability is an important part of our moving forward. And we have very little property in this city. And so I understand how hard you've had to work to understand where options are to put it. And it's a complicated issue, but I'm very hopeful that either the FAA gives us the green light to say, no, this is a viable option, or they'll say, no, it's not. And then that can at least give us the option to move forward one way or the other.
Yeah, they'll either say yes or no, and that will determine if I take a left or a right. That's all there is to it.
I'm really excited about this. I was one of the people that said very likely to be a part of this project. I mean, I'm very excited about it, and I hope we can find ways to do more of them. Outside of the FAA, is there not also a state? Is there not a state level that we also have, like, that we would go through first before the FAA, or do we do them in kind of in conjunction?
They're kind of conjunction. It's MDOT Aero is actually who you put all that through, and then they pass it up through the food chain and do their things. So we've been through these permits before. I mean, just even rebuilding the power line on 160th we did last year required us to go through some of these steps. So that's, at least my experience, is the question about FAA. Can you build a power line there? Well, where are you going to put it? How tall is it going to be? Da-da-da-da. And you have to have those details. So once again, when it comes down to it, they will tell us yes or no. And like I said, if it's no, then we've got our answer, and we'll put a pin in this location. If the answer is yes, then we'll move forward with even more. And you'll probably see it again, once again, because we'll have to use a special land use permit. So I believe you guys you'll see this again.
Right.
So we'll have to walk through all those processes. So this is just the first step in approvals of many.
So we're approving this actual lease agreement that's before us.
Well,
that
it's
was
an
sent out in our
easement.
package.
It's an
The
easement.
Yep. So that's what we're actually approving.
That's
is
what's on the
wording.
agenda.
Pardon?
That's what's on the agenda.
Yep. So one of the issues that was brought up at the airport board, and I think you may have been there at the time, was that it appeared to have no end to it. Other than your estimation of the useful life was 20 years, and you would stop investing in it then, and however long they lasted would be great. One of the things that was brought up was the possibility of putting on here that it would have a 20-year with several 5-year agreements for extensions. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Well, I guess I would say that all my off-the-cuff, because that's the first time
Yep.
hearing it, my off-the-cuff response to that would be, I'd hate to put people in a position where you're guaranteed 20 years, so we're going to guarantee them that.
Yep.
But if this stuff is still viable, and next thing you know, I come in here and whole different city council, in fact, 20 years from now, it won't be me either. So,
won't be me.
you know, city council 3.0 or whatever you want to call it, and they say, well, we want to rip those panels out even though they're still producing. So that's why we thought it would make sense to just do the auto extend. And then once we say we're going to demo this project, we demo it, and then we're done. The easement evaporates at that point. So to me, it makes sense to tie it with the life of the asset, because that's what's going to be there. It'd be frankly very foolish. And I guess if I was buying into one of these panels with the payback period, like you mentioned earlier, I want it to go as long as possible. I don't want to see it get pulled out from my feet at year 21 when I might have had another 3 or 4 years of payback in it. So I think the way we written it, well, that's why I wrote it the way I worked with Ron to write it the way I rewrote it, is I think that makes sense, that it will be there just for the life of this project.
Yeah, I didn't see anything in here that indicated what that life was expected to be. And there was nothing in here that says after 20 years, we're going to stop investing in it, and however it remains viable after that is what it'll be. There was nothing. So it appears to me, when you read it, that it's just open-ended as long as the BLP decides to keep investing money into it and replacing the panels, which was one of the concerns that, the airport board had as well. I mean, you say 20 years, but, in 20 years, you're not going to be the guy who's making those decisions. 10 years down the road, there may be somebody who says, yeah, we're going to keep this going for the next 40 years, which was a concern that the airport board had as well. So I don't know if there's something we can add to this that puts some type of a lifespan on it, other than, you're telling us 20 years and you're going to stop investing.
Yep. Well, I guess the hard part about that, too, is if we look at this, I'm trying to lock up the land now for multiple phases.
Yep.
So let's say 5 years from now, we decide, we got all the other panels, and we want to do phase 2. So it's almost to what, I'm speaking exactly to what they're concerned with. Well, then, it's no longer 20 years from today.
Right.
It's going to be 20 years from that day. So I'm trying to come up with a agreement that will cover those options and give, you're tying up that land. I guess there's no other way to put it, Mike. I understand the concern, I understand your point, but it was written that way on purpose, so that way if you do a phase 2 or a phase 3 in the future, that you would have this already ready to go. We're not back here having the same argument in 5 years or 6 years again.
Nope. Okay.
Didn't we just okay to have hangars built by private individuals and that? And possibility of maybe corporate hangars of some sort out there?
Not at this location.
No, not that location. I'm talking at the airport. We just okayed to have them so we can build in, so we can at least have maybe a possibility of a corporate hangars.
Privately owned hangars.
Yeah, privately owned.
Privately
Or
owned,
even corporate can come in.
And
We've had some corporations
And
ask us
there
about
again,
that.
those would be a land lease
Well,
situation as
I know,
well.
but I'm just saying is, you're going back to 2001, I'm just going back to you, Bob, is
Yep.
the extension of the runway. If one of our companies wanted to come in and have a larger airplane, and they want to expand out into that area, and we get the lease out, we just got done saying we want corporate airplanes out there. We want to be able to have their own lease out there. We said yes to a lot of the improvements on it. I just want to make sure that we're not shortchanging ourselves, that we can expand for a larger airplane to come in there if they wanted to, and we can make more money on it.
Well, I think that if somebody were to build a hangar, that they would be aware of the limitations of the airport.
If we put solar panels on there, you won't be able to.
Well, actually, that's not the case because they're outside of the extended zone.
I'm talking about the extension.
I said that. I just said that. We're outside of the extended zone. If they extended the runway, he's beyond that.
Okay. I just want to make
Am
sure.
I
because I don't
correct or
wanna
am I
short- don't wanna shortchange
misunderstanding
ourselves.
something here?
You are correct. The area I'm talking about is outside the RPZ in those areas, even if the runway is extended. So I took, I'll say, best case scenario for the airport, worst case scenario for me, and pushed them as far back as possible so that they are outside of any future expansions that are shown on any of the airport plans as of today.
I still have a problem that we can't talk to somebody and you have to have a plan.
Well-
I really find that hard to believe.
And how long you been involved in government?
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, I have a chance as we go down, we talk to our legislators, and we don't get nowhere with them, but at least we get a chance to talk.
Well, there you have it.
You know, we've only had a few successes with them, but at least we have a chance to talk to them and they listen to us.
Well, I think
And they can get answers for us.
the answer you'll get was, where's your details?
I
And
just
that's the
like to
investment
have,
he's not willing to make.
I just like to have some more information.
I understand.
I really do.
All right. Other thoughts, comments, questions?
Done.
Oh, okay, so the motion is for this easement. The easement contains language referencing FAA approvals and such. Do we need to clarify any of that? I think that it says that here. Otherwise, I think if we're done talking around, I would call for a vote.
Yeah, like I said, I've done a lot of studying and I spent a whole day on the computer trying to figure this out. I give credit to Rob for dealing with this because I'll tell you what, it is,
It's a mess.
it's about 8 layers deep before you even get to find the subject you want to talk about. So, I guess I'm willing to take a leap of faith with what you have presented and what you are saying and put some aspects into the FAA and MDOT Aero and see where it goes.
Call for the vote?
Dora,
Yes.
Calio,
Yes.
Lyon,
Yes.
Fritz,
There's a hesitation here. I don't feel comfortable saying yes, but I will say yes only because there's safeguards there, but I just don't feel comfortable with it. I did say yes.
yes, okay. Manetza.
Yes. All right, so there's a lot to be learned yet. This enables another step.
Believe it.
All right, next item, please.
Item B, consideration by City Council of a resolution to approve a contract with Michigan Paving Materials Company for the 2026 street resurfacing and the budgeted and not to exceed amount of $497,966. Administration recommends approval.
Can I get a motion?
Second.
Motion by Lyons, second by Callio. Yes?
Logan Cuddington, Streets and
Logan,
Utilities
okay.
Manager.
Now I know your name.
Nice to meet you all. What you have before you are detailed supporting staff recommendation to approve Michigan Paving and Materials to repave the city streets for the 25-26 year. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Questions?
No, I just really appreciated the bid process being explained so clearly. It was great.
Last year, we changed the mixture a little bit, I think, on the asphalt, if I remember correctly. Did that seem to work out a lot better than the old style? Because the old style seemed to want to crack a lot more. Does this seem to be better off for us, or we don't know yet?
I don't think we'll know yet. I mean, maybe we'll find out this spring with the harsh winter, but
Because I was pretty impressed with it, to be honest with you. Because I remember over the years gone by, a lot of times we get done within about 2 or 3 years from now, it usually starts cracking again on us.
Mhm.
Just want to know, make sure that we're going to end up with the same kind of mix so we can kind of be consistent.
I think we've stayed consistent with the mix in the last few years with the 5 EML, and that's worked out pretty well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, appreciate it.
So we got a little bit extra money to pave a little bit more road?
Yep, yep.
Okay.
We're still looking at what we want to do with that extra money, but we're also going to be rating the roads here in the spring to get a better picture on what we want to do in the future as well.
Okay. When's the last time we did a Pacer rating?
I think 21.
So when are we due for that again?
Mm-hmm. Yep. This spring.
Okay. I guess you said that.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Okay, any other questions? Just call the roll.
Lyon,
Yes.
Calio,
Yes.
Dora,
Yes.
Fritz,
Yes.
Manetza.
Yes. Next item, please.
Item C, consideration by City Council of a resolution to award the contract authorizing Task Order 28, Task 38, non-CCR data collection work plan to HDR of Ann Arbor, Michigan in the budgeted amount of $232,377 and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the necessary documents. Administration recommends approval.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second, motion by Fritz, second by Dora. Let's see. Oh, Derek is here.
Yeah. Good evening, Your Honor, council members. Derek Gatus, Project Management Director for the city. This is the last task we have to do before we will start getting into the actual remediation alternative. You'll see that task order come in the next couple months. But just the last 3 major tasks is, one, to get a full survey of all the ground. That's part of this task. A biometric don't know if I said the word right. Was actually the survey, it's just gonna be just underneath the water. So, where the island goes into, I think it's about 4 feet, of the river and wetlands. So they can, have a full survey, to understand the dynamics of our options. And the last thing is a pump test, which actually it's pretty expensive, but it's really, necessary to find out how the water moves through the island, when and if one of the options is to pump and treat some of the contaminated groundwater. Because of the dynamic, you don't always have to do it, I don't believe, but because our island is so unique with all the trash and all the things we've buried out there over the years, it's not just general soil that you would deal with on, a different site. So that test is scheduled here for the 1st of March or beginning of March. All this is contingent on the BLP passing their portion of it. If you notice, it's a really similar number. The only difference is the PFAS testing compared to the CCR testing. So this was one of those things where we've split it pretty much 50-50 because both the PFAS regulated, activities and the CCR activities it wasn't 59-41. It was really just, we both need it. So we split it basically in half. One thing to note though is TAPCon, the contractor that's going to be bringing equipment out there is a contractual number. So we're hoping it's a maximum under our contract. We're hoping to be underneath that and actually save some money, so not to exceed. But if something does happen and we can't disperse the water in the manner in which we plan, which we did save a ton of money by getting Eagle to allow us to discharge it back on the island. HDR saved us hundreds of thousands of dollars of treatment costs in that. Then we'll have to step back and get a change order. But the idea is we think we've got it covered and we'll actually save some money, so it should be less than this as our anticipation. So the BLP will take up their portion at next Monday's BLP meeting.
Okay. Questions? Comments?
We just need to make sure the number is actually correct. So the 232,377 was actually the number for the previous one we approved.
Yes, you are right on the actual, hold on, let me just
They were
look that
just
up.
so close.
They were, it was only a few $100s more in 232,889, you're correct. That's what this resolution should say.
They
The
were just
BLP's is
literally so close.
377. We won, if you want to consider that a win, then we had the higher number. But thank you for pointing that out. What's that? Golf scores, yes. If there's any questions,
I apologize if it says somewhere else, but do we need to have this then designated as dependent on?
So this is our portion.
So
This is the city's
either
now.
way,
Yep.
we are proceeding with this regardless
Well,
of,
so they're both together. If the BOP does not, the HR task order says they both need to be approved. So you approve yours, our city approves ours, and the BOP will approve theirs. If they don't approve theirs, then we're stuck in conundrum, and we wouldn't move forward with this contract.
okay. But we don't need to specifically call that
No,
out
no.
in here? Okay.
The one on the consent order tonight was specifically spelled
Right.
out, that was contingent on them approving it.
Okay.
And that's more or less for the reimbursement portion because we front the costs and then seek reimbursement from the BLP.
Okay.
So do we need to amend this to correct the dollar amount?
Yes.
All right, I need a motion to amend this agenda item to $232,289.
889.
800. Yeah, don't listen to me. $889.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Kelly, a second by Lyons, to correct the dollar amount to $232,889.00. Call the roll, please.
Callio?
Yes.
Lyon?
Yes.
Fritz?
Yes.
Dora?
Yes.
Manetza?
Yes. Any other questions on the main motion now, the amended motion? Call the roll.
Fritz?
Yes.
Dora?
Yes.
Callio?
Yes.
Lyon?
Yes.
Manetza?
Yes. All right. Well, that concludes our regular business for the evening. It brings us to our report by city council. Who has a report?
Well, I'm 2 days late, but Valentine's Day was Saturday, and Friday I was walking down Washington, and it was sunny, and I was seeing a lot of red and tan checked bags with chocolate in them, and I stopped at the card shop, and, you know, all these amazing shops that we have downtown, and I heard a woman in front of me saying, "Oh my gosh, I love visiting this town. I just love it here." And she was telling her husband and her son. And I think sometimes we start to forget, especially when there's, I don't know, 600 inches of snow and gray and all of that. Kind of, we forget how special a place this is. And it's nice to have one of our guests and tourists remind us of what a special place it is. So it was just my little love letter to Grand Haven.
Thank you. Good to have an upbeat note.
Once in a while, right?
Mike?
Potholes.
Potholes.
Do we have a number for people to call that they can get a hold of us and let us know where potholes are? We used to have the call number, you know, we used to have something like that. Do we have anything, or do you just want them just to call down to DPW, or do we have a specific place that they can leave a message?
Calling DPW is the easiest to connect with our staff, or calling really any of our general lines, but we also have the general inquiry form online where you can submit those kind of observations. But calling the department directly is always a quick and easy way to get a hold of somebody.
Okay, just want to make sure, because that's the big thing right now, the freeze thaw and everything else, and we're going to see a lot of that, so. And we just don't want them to get bigger, that's all. So if people out there, if you're listening, heard from the city manager, call down to DPW and let them know if you see a big pothole out there, so they can get it taken care of, because if it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, it costs us more and more and more, so we try and keep it maintained to a small minimum in it. And also pitches and catches are reported for Tigers, and they've had a full squad, and Saturday they play the Yankees, so seems like we have a good pitching staff at start on paper, just hope our bats come through. And that's all I have to say today.
Okay. And do you recommend not posting first on Facebook, but calling us instead?
I
when we
will
have potholes?
Our staff does try to monitor online, but that is not where we're spending all of our time. So phone call is always the easiest, or an
Okay.
email.
So newsflash, Facebook's not the first
Yeah,
choice.
if you take that picture, send it to us by email. Don't post it online.
Okay, thank you. Aaron?
I spent the last 10 days in Costa Rica. It's very warm there, just in case anybody wanted to know. Very happy to see the sun today coming home.
Thank you. Mike, anything?
We've seen a lot of videos and drone footage recently online of all the folks out on the ice in Lake Michigan, walking along the pier, trying to get out to the end. It is very hazardous. It is not the place to go for a stroll this time of year. There's folks walking out on the ice within 5 feet of where the water is. You know, there's a shelf underneath there where the water kind of hollows out a spot under the ice, and you walk out a little too close and hit where it's weak, and you go in 32 to 40 degree water, you don't have 15 minutes. I love our Department of Public Safety, and I think they're great for response times, but boy, you know, no one wants to cut it to the end with 15 minutes to go and everybody's busy doing something else and they don't get to you. So please, I just beg you, be careful if you're going to walk out on the ice or out on the pier. Wear cleats, wear something, you know, have a life vest or an inflatable jacket, wear something to protect yourself, because it's, in all its beauty, it's not worth the ultimate cost. So please be careful.
Amen.
Yeah, or just don't go there.
Or just don't go out there.
Okay.
Amen, Mike, thank you.
Right, excellent. Yeah, all good thoughts. I attended a planning commission meeting last week, and there was a work session where they talked about housing challenges in Grand Haven and some thoughts about things that are being done in countywide or other communities and such. Some of these were reminiscent of what we got from our 2018 Affordable Housing Task Force, which we did implement some of that in our zoning in 2021. And some of it was a little bit that and more so, and some new ideas. So it's good that they're having this conversation. I don't think they had specific action items coming out of this work session, but they kind of started the conversation up again. So I think that's a positive thing. So hopefully they will come back with some more ideas to kind of enhance us from a regulatory aspect. I think our housing challenges are more economic than regulatory, but if there's some things we can do to help, we should at least explore that. And, there's always this nod to the character of the community, that we are a built-out community and we do have considerable character here, even though it's very eclectic in a lot of our neighborhoods. It's quite a mix of things. But we call it home and we like it here, and so we don't want to change drastically. We do need to accommodate new generations, new people coming in, and so it's going to be a balancing act going forward. So I appreciated their conversation. That's all I've got, so I'll turn it over to the city manager.
The only thing I have is with kicking off of our budget dialogue this evening with the fee schedule, we need to look to schedule our conclusion budget work session, which typically takes place in April. So staff is looking at potential dates for April, being the end of February. It's coming up quickly. So we're looking at April 15th. That's a Wednesday. It's roughly the same time we've had the budget work session within the month of April the last couple of years, but wanted to offer that date early to see if we had consensus so we could work backwards from that. Typically do 6 o'clock. We'll likely have space at Central Park Place that we would utilize.
Tax day.
Oh.
I'm okay. I'm good.
I'll look at Emily as I say that.
I'm fine with that.
Available.
If there are alternative dates
yes
that
or
work
no?
better, we're open to those as well, but wanted to start somewhere.
Okay, works for me.
Okay, so we will plan on that, April 15th, about 6 PM start time. And that's all I had this evening.
Okay, brings us to our second call to the audience. This time, members of the audience may address council on any item, whether on the agenda or not. Those addressing council has to provide their name and address. It will be limited to 3 minutes of speaking time. Council will hear all comments for future consideration, will not have a response at this time. Those not physically present who would like to call in may dial 616-935-3203. Who would like to address council? If no one would like to come forward, then I will close call to the audience. If there's no further business this evening, I will declare us adjourned. Thank you for coming.